Have you ever felt like you were doing everything mostly right, yet something in your body didn't feel as steady as it used to be? A little dizziness when you stand up, a strange heaviness behind the eyes, or moments when your heartbeat feels just a bit louder than it should. One of my patients once told me she thought it was simply part of getting older, until a quiet warning sign turned out to be something far more serious. And I want you to imagine this for a moment. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, enjoying the same foods you've trusted for years, completely unaware that some of them may be gently working against your heart and brain without making a sound. Stroke remains one of the deadliest conditions affecting older adults in the United States, but what many people don't realize is how often the biggest triggers come from everyday foods that appear harmless. Most seniors assume danger shows up only in dramatic moments, like chest pain or sudden weakness. But the truth is, the body whispers before it ever screams. Small choices repeated day after day. A little extra salt here, a processed meal there, or a sugary drink when you feel tired, can quietly raise blood pressure, stiffen arteries, and feed inflammation that builds over time. And I want to be very clear. This isn't about blame or doing something wrong, it's about awareness. Most seniors simply don't know which foods slowly increase stroke risk or how certain habits make that risk grow without warning. Food can be a powerful protector, but it can also become a silent saboteur if we don't recognize its impact on the brain and cardiovascular system. In this video, we're going to explore the foods that increase stroke risk, the daily habits that make the danger greater, the common senior diet mistakes people rarely talk about, and the simple, practical replacements that can make your meals safer and your body stronger. You don't need to change everything overnight. You only need to understand the parts of your routine that quietly work against you and gently shift them in your favor. By the end of this journey, you'll know how to support your energy, strengthen your circulation, protect your brain, and avoid preventable triggers that threaten your independence. Stay with me, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Senior Health Daily so we can keep learning, healing, and growing together. Hidden foods that increase stroke risk. When we talk about nutrition and stroke risk, most seniors imagine big, dramatic culprits like greasy fast food or heavy, indulgent meals. But the reality is far quieter and far more surprising. The greatest dangers often lie in small choices made every day, foods that slip into our routines without raising suspicion. Over the decades, I've watched countless patients struggle with health issues they never saw coming. They weren't careless. They weren't ignoring their bodies. They were simply trusting foods that have changed dramatically since they were young. And those changes matter. Take high-sodium processed foods as an example. Frozen dinners, canned soups, deli meats, packaged noodles. For many seniors, these foods are convenient, affordable, and easy on the hands. One of my patients, Mr. Lawson, relied on frozen meals because arthritis made chopping vegetables difficult. He thought he was choosing healthier options by picking meals labeled light or low fat. What he didn't know was that these same meals hid more than half a day's worth of sodium. Over time, his blood pressure crept upward, his ankles swelled, and his doctor visits became more frequent. Sodium thickens arterial walls, stiffens blood vessels, and forces the heart to work harder. It doesn't cause dramatic pain, so it's easy to dismiss. But every day, little by little, it builds a foundation for a future stroke. That's why processed foods are one of the most silent and underestimated contributors to stroke risk among older adults. The second major category is trans fat and hydrogenated oils. These often hide inside pastries, crackers, packaged cookies, and margarine spreads. Many seniors grew up in a time when margarine was marketed as a heart-healthy alternative to butter, and it became a permanent household staple. But modern science tells a different story. Trans fats raise LDL, the cholesterol that blocks arteries, and lower HDL, the cholesterol that clears blockages. Over the years, I've had patients who proudly avoided fried food, but ate 2 or 3 packaged cookies every night with tea, never realizing those small bites were quietly increasing plaque buildup in their arteries. It's not the dessert you enjoy on your birthday that harms you. It's the repeated exposure to low-quality fats that reshape your blood vessels from the inside out. Sugary foods and sweetened drinks carry their own risks. Many older adults use sugary beverages as a quick source of energy. When fatigue hits or appetite drops, a soda or sweetened iced tea feels like a simple pick-me-up. But sugar causes inflammation throughout the body and spikes insulin levels, which in turn affects how the blood vessels function. Excess sugar also contributes to belly fat, which releases hormones that encourage chronic inflammation. Over the years, I've watched seniors with seemingly normal diets struggle with headaches, fogginess, and irregular heart rhythms, simply because sugary drinks replaced water in their daily routine. They didn't realize these beverages could weaken arteries over time, making them more vulnerable to stroke. Then we have red and processed meats. Many families treasure recipes that include bacon, sausage, ham, or roast beef. The issue is not occasional enjoyment, but routine consumption. Processed meats contain nitrates and nitrites, preservatives that increase vascular stiffness and inflammation. A patient once shared that he ate a slice of ham every morning for almost 30 years because it felt familiar and comforting. When he developed high blood pressure in his 70s, he wondered how it happened. He had no idea that a lifetime of cured meats contributed to the decline of his vascular health. Another hidden contributor is refined carbohydrates such as white bread, white rice, and many breakfast cereals. These foods may seem harmless, even gentle, especially when appetite is low. But refined carbs break down into sugar quickly, causing blood sugar spikes that damage vessel walls. Over time, this becomes a quiet but steady risk factor for stroke. When patients switch from refined carbs to whole grains, their energy stabilizes, inflammation drops, and blood sugar levels improve. The change seems small on the plate, but it's powerful inside the body. Excessive caffeine and energy drinks may also play a role. Seniors often don't know they have hypertension or irregular heart rhythms, and caffeine intensifies both conditions. I once treated a woman who drank 2 large coffees each morning because she struggled to sleep at night and felt exhausted during the day. She believed coffee was harmless since she'd consumed it all her life. But as her blood vessels aged, her tolerance changed. Her heart rate fluctuated, her blood pressure spiked unpredictably, and she experienced brief episodes of vertigo that frightened her. Excess caffeine can be especially risky for older adults with undiagnosed heart issues. Another overlooked danger is high sodium sauces and condiments. Soy sauce, packaged seasoning blends, salad dressings, marinades. A single tablespoon can contain more salt than an entire meal should. Seniors often rely on these for flavor, especially as taste sensitivity decreases with age. But these sauces become silent salt bombs that dramatically raise daily sodium intake without anyone realizing it. Finally, alcohol plays a role in increasing stroke risk, especially for older adults with hypertension, diabetes, or arrhythmia. Many seniors enjoy a glass of wine in the evening or a beer with friends, and one drink occasionally is not the issue. The danger appears when occasional becomes daily. Even moderate alcohol use can raise blood pressure, affect heart rhythm, and reduce the brain's ability to repair and recover. All of these foods share a common trait. On their own, they seem harmless. Together, repeated day after day, they create an environment where a stroke becomes much more likely. The food landscape has changed. What was once considered a treat has become part of daily life. The foods that increase stroke risk are not rare or exotic. They're familiar, comforting, and easy to overlook. But awareness is powerful, and once you begin to recognize these silent threats, you can start making choices that protect your body rather than strain it. That brings us to the next part of our conversation. Because it's not only about what we eat, it's also about how we live. Daily habits. Increasing stroke risk. Everyday behaviors shape our health just as much as the food we choose. Many seniors underestimate the effect of routine habits because the changes they cause happen slowly. Quiet patterns become normal, and before long, they shape how the heart and brain respond to stress. Eating late at night is one example. When we eat close to bedtime, especially salty or heavy foods, the body shifts into a state of processing rather than resting. This can cause blood pressure to rise during hours when it should be at its lowest. Over time, elevated nighttime blood pressure becomes a strong predictor of stroke. I've had countless patients tell me they prefer late-night snacks because they don't feel hungry during the day. It becomes a natural rhythm, but unfortunately, it's a rhythm that disrupts hormones and places unnecessary strain on the heart. Skipping water is another surprisingly common habit. Many older adults reduce fluid intake because they want to avoid waking up at night or making frequent trips to the bathroom. It seems like a small decision, but chronic underhydration thickens the blood. Thicker blood flows more slowly and increases the likelihood of forming clots, especially in individuals who already have high blood pressure or reduced mobility. When I explain this to patients, they're often shocked. They never imagined that simply drinking too little could raise their stroke risk. Long sitting periods are also problematic. With age, activity levels naturally decrease, but prolonged sitting reduces oxygen flow to the brain and slows circulation throughout the body. This can create ideal conditions for clot formation. Seniors who watch television for hours or stay in one chair most of the day often don't realize the impact. A retired teacher once told me she spent most afternoons reading by the window. It was peaceful, but after months of fatigue and lightheadedness, she discovered that extended sitting contributed to her circulation issues. Small movement breaks made a remarkable difference in her clarity and stamina. Then there's the habit of overusing salt shakers. Many people say, "I only use a little," but taste sensitivity changes with age. What used to taste salty now seems mild. That little pinch becomes far more sodium than the body can comfortably handle. When I ask patients to measure the amount of salt they add during a day, the number often surprises them. Salt is essential for taste, but too much quietly pushes blood pressure higher. Many seniors also use processed meals as their primary food source. This happens not out of laziness, but out of practicality. Painful joints, fatigue, limited mobility, or difficulty shopping make packaged meals an easy choice. Unfortunately, these foods are filled with sodium, preservatives, and additives that place strain on the cardiovascular system. They are convenient but costly to long-term health. These daily habits often feel harmless because the consequences accumulate slowly. But once seniors understand how these behaviors interact with their aging bodies, they become empowered to make meaningful changes. Awareness is the first step. Choice is the second. Now let's explore something equally important: the mistakes many seniors don't even realize they're making. Senior diet mistakes. Most people overlook. Some of the most damaging dietary patterns among seniors are not intentional. They come from assumptions, outdated advice, or habits that once seemed harmless. Over the years, I've observed several patterns that are incredibly common. One mistaken belief is that a low appetite means low risk. Many seniors assume that eating small portions protects them from illness, but stroke risk isn't about volume. It's about the quality of the food and the frequency with which certain ingredients enter the body. A person can eat very little and still consume too much sodium, sugar, or preservatives without realizing it. Another misconception is the idea that I've eaten this my whole life, so it must be safe. Foods today are not the same as they were 50 or 60 years ago. Processing methods, additives, farming practices, and portion sizes have all changed. Seniors who grew up eating simple bread, butter, and home-cooked meals now face a food landscape filled with chemicals and engineered flavors. The body may have tolerated certain foods decades ago, but aging arteries are far more fragile. Some seniors also assume that foods that look healthy are actually healthy. Granola bars, smoothies, flavored yogurts. These items are often loaded with sugar, making them no better than dessert. One patient started each morning with a store-bought smoothie, believing it was a nutritious choice. When she suffered a mini-stroke, her doctors discovered that her healthy breakfast contained more sugar than a can of soda. There is also confusion between low-fat and low-sodium. Food marketed as low-fat often compensates with extra salt to maintain flavor, So, while seniors may feel they're making heart-conscious choices, they are unknowingly replacing one problem with another. Finally, many seniors fail to recognize early signs of stroke risk. Fatigue, dizziness, brief headaches, or pressure behind the eyes are often dismissed as aging or stress. But these small signals can indicate vascular strain. When we learn to pay attention to these early warnings, we give ourselves a chance to intervene before something serious occurs. Now that we understand the pitfalls, let's turn to the simple science that connects all of these foods and habits to stroke risk. Simple science. Why these foods raise stroke risk? The science behind stroke prevention doesn't need to be complicated. What matters most is understanding how certain foods and habits affect the blood vessels and brain. High sodium constricts blood vessels, causing the body to hold onto water. This raises blood pressure and forces the heart to pump harder. Over time, the constant pressure weakens artery walls and makes them more likely to clog or rupture. Excess sugar causes inflammation throughout the body. Chronic inflammation weakens blood vessels and encourages fatty plaque to grow. When arteries narrow, blood flow slows and increases the chances of a blockage. Trans fats contribute to plaque buildup. Think of plaque as a sticky substance that clings to artery walls. Over years, it accumulates until it restricts blood flow. When blood flow stops, a stroke occurs. Dehydration thickens the blood, making it harder to move through vessels. This slows oxygen transport to the brain and makes clots more likely to form, especially in seniors who are already inactive or dealing with heart issues. Chronic inflammation further weakens vessel walls, making them more vulnerable to rupture. When a weakened vessel bursts, the result is a hemorrhagic stroke, which can be devastating. These mechanisms may sound complex, but they all lead to one message. The foods we choose either strengthen or weaken the blood vessels that keep us alive. And the good news is that many stroke risks are preventable with simple changes. Stroke prevention for seniors. Preventing stroke doesn't require dramatic lifestyle overhauls. Small, consistent changes make the biggest difference. When seniors understand which foods place strain on their arteries and which foods support them, they often feel empowered rather than overwhelmed. One effective step is replacing salty processed foods with fresh or low-sodium alternatives. Using herbs, garlic, lemon, and pepper for flavor brings meals to life without relying on salt. Many patients are stunned by how much lighter and more energetic they feel when sodium levels drop. Switching from refined carbs to whole grains is another powerful change. Whole grains digest more slowly, providing steadier energy and reducing blood sugar spikes. Adding more leafy greens, berries, and omega-3 rich fish nourishes the blood vessels and reduces inflammation. These foods act like protective armor for the heart and brain. Staying hydrated is essential. A simple hydration routine helps. 1 glass of water in the morning, 2 glasses throughout the afternoon, and 1 more with dinner. This keeps blood flowing smoothly and supports overall circulation. A daily movement routine, even 10 to 15 minutes, stimulates blood flow and strengthens the heart. It doesn't need to be strenuous. Gentle stretching, walking, or simple chair exercises can bring remarkable benefits. Limiting alcohol and reducing caffeine stabilizes blood pressure and supports healthy heart rhythms. A helpful guideline is the heart-healthy plate approach. Half the plate filled with colorful vegetables, a quarter with lean protein, and a quarter with whole grains. This simple visual acts as a compass for healthy meals. Every small change is a step toward protection. Every mindful choice is an investment in independence. As we come to the end of this journey, I want to remind you of something deeply important. Most of the habits we talked about today didn't form overnight. They came from years of routine, years of doing what was familiar, comforting, or simply convenient. There is no blame in that. There is only understanding, and understanding is the first step toward healing. Your body has carried you through decades of work, love, joy, loss, growth, and change. It has stayed loyal even when life became difficult, even when stress rose, even when time pressed forward. Now is your moment to protect it back. Not with fear, not with harsh rules, but with gentle awareness and steady shifts in the choices you make each day. Stroke prevention isn't about living in worry, it's about living with empowerment. It's about knowing that small, consistent steps can reshape your future. A little less salt, a glass of water when you wake up, a short walk after lunch, choosing foods that support your heart rather than strain it. These are not restrictions. They are new forms of self-respect. Your body speaks to you, sometimes quietly, sometimes with a nudge you might be tempted to ignore. Trust those signals. They are reminders that you still have strength, still have control, still have the ability to protect your mind, your memory, your independence, and your joy. You deserve a strong heart. You deserve a sharp mind, and you deserve a long, healthy, fulfilling life. If today's message touched you or helped you understand your body a little better, I hope you'll stay connected with Senior Health Daily so we can continue this journey together. Your health is your legacy, and every step you take toward caring for it is a step toward a brighter, stronger tomorrow.